Yes guys, welcome back to the Premier League Appetiser show. We're here on the Asian one-to-one football coaching channel. I'm Coach Indy. Today is episode 4, so we'll be discussing loads of head-to-heads, whether it be managers, players, clubs, anything to do with that. Any interesting topics that may have happened between now and the last episode. Also we'll be discussing last week's results, and then also finally be looking forward to this weekend's Premier League fixtures, which will be game week 33 plus. So, first thing I'm just going to quickly whiz through is game week 32 plus results. Then we'll go through some of the FA Cup results as well, just touch on that briefly, and then we'll get stuck into game week 33 and all the ins and outs regarding that. So, results from game week 32 plus. So, that was from last Saturday, so it's been a quick turnaround of all the games, obviously since Project Research started. So the first game was on the Saturday, Aston Villa versus Wolves. Scoreline was Aston Villa 0, Wolves 1. Dendoncker the goal scorer for Wolves. Next game was on a Sunday, Watford versus Southampton. Watford 1, Southampton 3. Danny Ings getting a brace there, just a notable mention for him. Then moving on to the Monday night, Palace versus Burnley. Burnley winning this game 1-0, another really good away win for them. Brighton versus Manchester United on the Tuesday night. So far we've had four games, one every day so far. Brighton 0, Manchester United 3. Bruno Fernandes scoring brace, which I'm absolutely happy with. Now moving on to Wednesday, when the games are coming now more thick and fast. Arsenal versus Norwich. Arsenal win this game 4-0. Bournemouth versus Newcastle United. An absolutely emphatic victory for Newcastle United and Steve Bruce's team. Winning 4-1 at the Vitality Stadium. Then we had Everton versus Leicester. That was again on the Wednesday. Everton winning this game 2-1, and Leicester look in disastrous form, and we'll touch a bit more on them as the episode's going on. And then that leaves us the last game on the Wednesday, which was West Ham United versus Chelsea, and West Ham actually won this game 3-2 in the London derby, so a really good result for them. Then finally moving on to Thursday's games, which was Sheffield United versus Spurs. This game finished 3-1 to Sheff U. Brilliant result for Chris Wilder's team. Really disappointing for Jose Mourinho. And then the final game, which was Manchester City versus Liverpool, and Manchester City ran out 4-0 winners in this game. So really disappointing result for the champions, and congratulations to Liverpool, by the way. They absolutely deserve to win the title, but that wouldn't have been the way they would want to play their first game as champions, to get beaten by the previous champions 4-0. So we'll get stuck into that a bit more as the episode has gone on, and we'll talk about all the ins and outs with the goal scorers, main incidents, etc., and people's form and all that kind of thing. Okay. Just going to run through some of the FA Cup results as well, because they also took place last weekend, hence why there was so few games on the first 4 days of game week 32 plus. So just to run through those, they all played, so there's 4 quarterfinal matches, all played on the Saturday and the Sunday of last weekend. So the first game was on the Saturday evening, which was Norwich City versus Manchester United, and Man United won this game in extra time 2-1. Bit of a struggle, but nevertheless won the game. Then we had Sheffield United versus Arsenal, which was the first game on the Sunday. Arsenal winning this game 2-1. Good result for them. So both Arsenal and United both into the semi-finals. You're already thinking heavyweights, a lot of big sort of heavyweights into the semi-final. Moving on to the third game, which was Leicester versus Chelsea. Leicester 0, Chelsea 1. Again, goes on certainly on paper, you would say, sort of a heavyweight. Chelsea being a bigger club than Leicester. So another club, so it's 3 out of 4, 3 heavyweights into the semi-final. Then can we make it 4 out of 4? Newcastle versus Manchester City, and Man City, unsurprisingly, win this game 2-0. So on paper, if you were to predict the results, those are the 4 that you'd go with, and all 4 have gone through. So it's a massive sort of semi-final lineup. Semi-final dates will be taking place on the 18th and the 19th of July, with the final to be taking place on Saturday the 1st of August. So the draw was taking place. Man United will be taking on Chelsea, and Arsenal will be taking on Manchester City. So they're the 2 semi-final dates, and then obviously, like I said, Saturday the 1st is when the FA Cup final will be, which will be the weekend after the Premier League season finishes. Okay, let's look forward to the next game week, which is game week 33 plus. The first fixture we're going to be looking at is Norwich City versus Brighton. So Norwich in their last game got absolutely smashed 4-0 to Arsenal. They've lost all 3 of their games, and they've lost the FA Cup game, so they've lost 4 games since the restart. In truth, they haven't looked like picking up any points, if I'm totally honest. But their best performance, if you like, and best sort of result, even despite losing, was probably the FA Cup game, which they took United to extra time. They're still 6 points adrift of the relegation zone as well, so it really is looking very slim chance for Norwich to stay in the division. Having said that, it is still mathematically possible for them to stay up. They just need to start winning or immediately, and then go on a bit of a run. And this is a nice fixture. Norwich at home to Brighton. Brighton have obviously made sort of an indifferent start, if you like. That moves on to sort of their result. Brighton's result. They lost 3-0 at home to Manchester United, which we touched on earlier. That is actually their first defeat since the restart. They actually picked up 4 points before that, beating Arsenal, and I think they drew with Leicester as well. But it was very they were quite passive in the game, Brighton. Having said that, I think you've got to give credit to Manchester United as well. They did play well, particularly in the first half, took the game by the scruff of the neck. But I think maybe in hindsight, Graham Potter's team could have been a bit more aggressive, not just in their offensive areas and sort of maybe their game plan, but also just the way they were sort of playing the game in the defensive third as well. I thought they were quite passive in that sense. They weren't quite aggressive enough, and they weren't sort of in your face, if you like. It was a bit too easy for Man United. Having said that, they do remain 6 points above the relegation zone. So, and that game will be played on Saturday, the 4th of July, 12:30 kick-off on BT Sport. Okay, moving on to game 2, Leicester versus Crystal Palace. This game will also be played on Saturday, the 4th of July, 3 p.m. on Sky Sports. Leicester in the last game lost 2-1 to Everton. Now, Leicester, I really fear for them at the moment, because this form isn't very good. They've only picked up 2 points from 3 games since the restart in the Premier League. They've also lost the FA Cup game to Chelsea at home. They're lacking massively in confidence. What's happened to Jamie Vardy? Doesn't look like he hit a barn door. James Maddison, indifferent. He's had a bit of an injury the last sort of game or two, which he might be sort of carrying a little bit. But what's happened to him? His form. Tielemans is another one. If you look at last season, the back end of last season, he was absolutely flying. There was rumours that he had options to either join Man United or Leicester, and he went to Leicester. And this season, especially the sort of second half of this season, it's been non-existent really. He's been much of a passenger. So, if we were to rewind back 3 months ago or before the break, everyone would have said nailed on Leicester City to finish in the Champions League, probably even top 3. Now, when we'll touch on obviously all the results and the ins and outs and what their permutations could be later on, but it looks like it could be even a struggle just to finish in the Champions League spots. I mean, they could even go down to 6th or 7th potentially if they don't start picking up results soon. This could be a bit of a whimper, Leicester, going towards the end of the season, not putting any results together, not putting any sort of, no one's really in form, and it's very all the good work they've done in the first half of the season could just go out the window completely if they don't. It's a mini season for them. They need to go and win probably 4 games. 4 games, I think they finish in the Champions League. And then moving on to Crystal Palace. So they lost 1-0 to Burnley. Which was Sean Dyche's team. Zaha, the game before, picked up an injury against Liverpool. First came back, he looked he looked miles off it actually. And I think maybe there's a bit of an over-reliance on Zaha, and it's no surprise. I think a lot of even the Crystal Palace players are relying on him as well, because they know that he's their best player. So it's not too alarming because of the position Crystal Palace are in the league, but they did have an outside chance of finishing the Europa League spots, and they still have, but they've got to go on a pretty much clean sweep, win all their games, maybe draw 1 game to sort of finish in the Europa League spots, and then also rely on other teams to drop points. So they've had back-to-back defeats in the Prem as well, and they remain mid-table. So no worries for Crystal Palace. They're going to be safe. They're going to be in around sort of anywhere between maybe 9th and 13th, 14th in the league, so they're going to be absolutely fine. Okay, moving on to another game on Saturday, the 4th of July. A 3 PM kickoff on BT Sport, which is Manchester United, my team, versus Bournemouth. Now, Man United are absolutely flying at the moment. Obviously, you beat Brighton in their last game. They picked up 7 points from 9, or possible 9. Bruno's absolutely flying. Scored the brace against Brighton. He's involved in absolutely everything we do, and not just going forward, but even defensively as well. His work out of possession is infectious. It should be infectious. It reminds me a little bit of the days when we had Carlos Tevez and Wayne Rooney, and them two setting the sort of example, and then everyone else around them have to follow, because they watch one of your teammates work it, and you think, well, I need to do that as well. And I think slowly that will come with everyone else. There's signs of other players beginning to do that a lot more as well. United obviously beat Norwich in the FA Cup as well, so then the semis of the FA Cup. They've had loads and loads of clean sheets during this unbeaten run, which incidentally is 15 games now in all comps. So this is obviously before COVID kicked in and until now as well. And on paper, certainly this is a really, really nice fixture for Manchester United. So you probably I don't want to jinx it or anything like that. Touch wood, they do remain unbeaten and they go and win the game, but you expect that to be 16 games unbeaten certainly. If you flip it to Bournemouth now, and they are looking like they are going to go down to the Championship. Honestly, they look toothless, if I'm totally honest. They got battered to home to Newcastle 4-1. I mean, when was the last time Newcastle scored 4 goals? Leave a little comment, actually, guys, because I don't actually know when that is. But it's been a very, very long time ago, I suspect. And even away from home as well, away to score 4 goals away from home, Newcastle is impressive enough. But it probably says more about Bournemouth than Newcastle, despite Newcastle form being quite good. They haven't picked up a point since the restart. They've had three games, 3 clean sheets. So 3 games, 3 shutouts, and no points picked up. Remain in the relegation zone. In actual fact, they've actually dropped down 1 position. They were 18th, actually now down to 19th because of goal difference. I think it's the same as Aston Villa's, but they've scored less goals, so therefore they go below Aston Villa. The only mere consolation they have, which is a slight positive, was that they actually scored a goal. Now that might sound really sort of patronising a little bit on Bournemouth's behalf, but they hadn't scored in the previous 2 games, and they didn't look like they were going to score either. So maybe that's a monkey off their back a little bit as well. They did score in the 90th minute, and at least they've scored the goal. So maybe a little bit of confidence going into this game, possibly. Okay, moving on to the first of the later games on the Saturday, which is 5:30 kickoff on Sky Sports. Wolves versus Arsenal. This is, on paper, could be a fantastic game. Bear in mind, obviously, as well, their league position. So Wolves are sitting in 6th position, 2 points outside the Champions League positions, 3 points outside 3rd in the league, and they're absolutely fighting for the Champions League. They're absolutely going to be going for it. Arsenal, on the other hand, they had 2 bad results to start off Project Restart, losing to Manchester City, which can happen. But in the second game when they lost to Brighton, which would have been really disappointing, especially in the manner they lost the game as well, conceding in the 90th minute. However, they have bounced back pretty well. They won their FA Cup quarter-final game away to Sheffield, which is a decent result. And then they absolutely battered Norwich, which, some people argue Norwich are the whipping boys of the league. So wouldn't necessarily read too much into that. But nevertheless, they still dispatched them. So in terms of Wolves, they won their last game 1-0 at Villa. Dendoncker scoring the goal. Played 3, won 3, 3 clean sheets, 9 points. Nuno has really got a well-oiled machine working there, honestly. He doesn't make too many changes. He might bring on Troy, might start a game, and then Dendoncker might sit out. Jota might sit on the bench and Troy might start. There's always sort of 1 or 2, maybe 3 players that sort of tweak here and there that may start. They might tweak the formation for a 1-3-5-2, or they might change to a 1-3-4-3. So it just varies on how they sort of, and maybe on the opposition as well. But they really have got Nuno's got them really sort of trained really, really well and organised and know exactly what they need to do in every single game, regardless of the opponent. Excuse me. So fixtures going ahead as well, sort of like Wolves got to play Chelsea as well on the last game of the season. So Wolves are going to put everything on the lines here. So if they can win this game, and then it just puts even more pressure on the teams above them, and then that game and the last game of the season, it adds more importance and more significance to that game. So they'll absolutely be going for the win. Arsenal, like I just touched on, they won the last game 4-0 to Norwich. Form has turned a little bit the last couple of games. Aubameyang looked good, scored a couple of goals, which brings him back in the frame as well in terms of confidence and the team as well, to being the captain. Just one other note to bring about Arsenal as well, that the young lad Saka has signed a new contract, which will be brilliant news for Arsenal fans to hear, considering he's probably been their certainly from their younger players their best player this season. But you could even argue top 3, top 4 players of all players, this season for Arsenal. So that certainly is a very promising bit of news for Arsenal, and just also to touch on as well, he's a very sort of multifunctional player as well. He can play numerous positions. You've seen probably in the last 3-4 games he's played left back, he's played left wing back, he's played left wing, right wing, he's played centre midfield. So he's very much a very important type player as well. You can rely on, if a position, someone gets injured or suspended, Saka can just fill that, every now and then if he needs to. So very good news for Arsenal there. And moving to the last game on the Saturday, which is an 8 o'clock kick-off on Sky Sports. Chelsea versus Watford, a London derby. So Chelsea, the last game, they actually lost to West Ham. It was a disappointing result for them. Took the lead through Willian scoring and brought the game back to 2-2 as well. And you think at that point there they're going to go on and win the game. But it was a blow. They obviously conceded a goal in the 90th minute through Yarmolenko. So it's definitely a blow for their Champions League hopes for this season. Having said that, they are in control of their destiny. They're sitting in 4th position. They're 2 points above Man United and Wolves, and they're right behind Leicester as well. They're chasing them down as well. They've had some good news recently as well. Obviously, they won the FA Cup game against Leicester. Pulisic looks like he's almost back to his best. He's scoring lots of goals. He's involved in a lot of key moments. Their squad depth is strong as well. They've got absolutely everyone available. And I just think the Champions League fight will go down to the wire. Really, really will. I touched on Chelsea will be playing Wolves on the last game of the season. Or actually, Leicester play Manchester United as well. So the 4 teams that are, as it stands right now, that are vying for the Champions League spots are all playing each other. That might change, could depend on the results. Someone could drop off massively, someone could go on a big run, and then all of a sudden there's someone else in it. You don't know. But as it stands right now, those 4 teams, that last game of the season could be absolutely crucial. In terms of Watford now, they had a really disappointing result, a home to Southampton. They've now had back-to-back defeats, which is disappointing for disappointing for Watford. They've only picked up 1 point from a possible 9, and that game was against Leicester City, who are a really obviously dire form we just touched on. They're sitting at 16th in the league, which isn't as disastrous. However, they do need to pick up their first W to sort of get out of this rot, to get that belief back, and also just to start looking up as opposed to looking over their shoulder, thinking, could Aston Villa win a game? Could Bournemouth win a game? And Norwich going to go on a run, and you're constantly looking behind you, and it can put added pressure, not just on the players but the coaching staff. They might make wrong decisions and crumble under pressure. They just need to pick up a win. Not sure if it's going to come in this fixture. I'll suggest probably not, but they certainly need to pick up something soon. Okay, moving on to Sunday, the 5th of July. Burnley versus Sheffield United. It's a 12 PM kickoff on Sky Sports. Burnley won their last game away to Palace that we just touched on. They've actually moved up to 8th in the league. They were 8th in the league. I think they're now down to 9th after Sheffield United won yesterday. They've very much got Europa League in their sights. Like I just said, they're 9th in the league. They're not points and points behind the Europa League positions. They're only a W away from finishing potentially in the Europa League spots if results go their way. And I'm going to keep touching on this same topic as well, because it's a theme that's happened in every game so far with Burnley. They only named 7 players on the bench. They've only named 1 senior player, Kevin Long, I believe it was, on the bench. Just because they've had a few injuries, but also out of contract players. That's a real worry for Sean Dyche and the club, really. Like I touched on before as well, it seems like there's a bit of a dispute between the manager and the owner about potentially the direction of the club. Sean Dyche obviously isn't happy, but having said that, that's back-to-back wins for them. Looking really, really strong after their sort of defeat to Manchester City, 5-0 I believe, and that can happen to anybody, by the way. Very, very nice goal from Ben Mee as well, sort of a little bit of a diving header slightly behind him, used his neck muscles to guide it in. Having said that, Guita probably should have saved it. But nevertheless, looking strong. They can carry on picking up some more wins. They can put added pressure onto the teams above them. So, yeah, on the field, working really, really well for Burnley. Off the field, not looking so great. So, yeah, leave a comment, guys, saying what you think, actually, what direction you think the club might go in on the back of what's going on off the field. So, will this potentially force Sean Dyche to leave the club, or will it completely resolve and everything will be fine and dandy going forward? Yeah, let us know, guys. It'll be really interesting to see. And then with Sheffield United, first thing to just note, they have agreed the loan extension for Dean Henderson with Manchester United, which is good news for them. They did lose the FA Cup game to Arsenal, which is disappointing. That was their fourth game in all competitions, 3 in the league prior to that, and they'd only picked up 1 point, which was away to Aston Villa, and they drew 0-0. They lost 3-0 to Man United and 3-0 to Newcastle. So, and then obviously lost the FA Cup game, but they actually played Spurs yesterday and won 3-1, and they look like something like their old self. Albeit they conceded a goal at the end, which should be disappointed with. I think Wilder will be really not fuming, but disappointed, especially they pride themselves on clean sheets and being well organised and hard working. So that would have been really disappointing on their part. But they did pick up the W, and that keeps them in the hunt for Europa League spots and maybe even, possibly the Champions League spots as well if results go their way. They do need to go their way. They need a lot of results to go their way if that does happen. There's a bitter blow for Spurs there. But nevertheless, good result for Chris Wilder. Okay, moving to 2:15 kick-off on the Sunday. Newcastle versus West Ham on Sky Sports News. Sorry, on Sky Sports. Both these teams obviously had brilliant results in the last game. Touched on Newcastle, their demolition of beating Bournemouth at the Vitality. That's 2 wins from their 3 league games. So 2 wins out of 4 as well if you include the FA Cup game, which they lost to obviously City, which anyone can lose to City. Just something to note on a player here. Alan Saint Maximin had a hat-trick of an assist in this game as well. So he looks like he's really settling into that Newcastle team. He looks sharp, he looks fit, he looks strong. He looks like he's got a bit of an X factor, a bit of unpredictability about him. I will compare him to not necessarily the build, but it reminds me a little bit of Adama Traore. He's got that unpredictability, he's got that change of pace, not as quick as Traore, granted I know that, but he's got that element about him which I think could cause havoc to the opposition, and then certainly in this game it really did. So brilliant performance from him. And someone else I just want to touch on as well is Almiron, who signed for the club last January when Rafa Benitez was there, and I don't think he even scored a goal. And that continued into this season when Steve Bruce was there for a period of time, and then eventually he scored, I think it was, I don't know the day, possibly around November, December time. But since then he's probably scored now 3, 4, 5 goals, possibly being involved in a lot of the good performances and a lot of the positive results Newcastle have had the last half a dozen to 8 games. I think he's becoming a fan's favourite, albeit the fans actually not being in the stadium. But certainly he seems like a player that gets the fans off their seats. He's exciting, he's got a good change of pace. He'll never let you down for work rate, not at all. He's a very, very hard-working player, one of the most hard-working in the Premier League, I would say. And then moving on to West Ham, obviously they beat Chelsea the other day. Yarmolenko scoring in the 90th minute to pick up a really, really good and needed 3 points for West Ham as well. It's the first win since restart. I want to touch on Antonio's performance. He's not a number 9. He's not even number 10. He's traditionally more of a wide player. He's been used in numerous positions since he's been at West Ham. He's played at right back, right wing back, up front as a 2 up front, right winger, left winger. He's played in every position. You name it, he's played there. But he really put in a really, really strong performance of demonstrating how to play as a lone striker. All the things you would ask for a team that plays a lone striker that's up against it when you know you're not going to have a lot of the ball is to hold the ball, get your body in and hold, stretch the opposition. Look at threaten the space in behind, and then if a chance or two comes your way to take it, and he scored a goal as well. And on top of that, it was a constant just pest for both centre halves and even bloody fullbacks. As as well. So did really, really, really well there. A special praise and a special mention for him as well. And then that actually moves them 3 points above the relegation zone, which psychologically can be a bit of a boost because it puts them one result. It's not just one result away. Unless there's a massive goal difference swing, which could happen. It's almost like it's 4 points, if you like. Also, Declan Rice was captain for West Ham. Mark Noble was missing for, I think, a bit of tightness in the calf, so he actually got a really strong performance as well. Really impressed with him, actually. And then slowly, I think the West Ham, the belief and the confidence will come back. Certainly after picking up a really positive result in a derby in this game would have been absolutely brilliant for them. Okay, moving on to Liverpool versus Aston Villa. That's Sunday, the 5th of July, 4:30 kickoff. First thing to mention is congratulations to Liverpool, Premier League champions. First time they won the league in 30 years. First time they've ever won the Premier League. No one can ever deny them that they haven't won the league. They've won the league now, so that's a monkey off their back. They absolutely deserve to win the league. It was no fluke. If anyone ever thought Liverpool didn't deserve the league, they're absolutely deluded. They absolutely deserve to win the league. So congratulations to them. But the first game back didn't go to their plan. Obviously, they played Manchester City yesterday and lost 4-0. And it could have been a different game if Salah took his chance early on and that ball crept in. And there's one or two moments as well where they could have been a bit more clinical, possibly in the final third. I've said that City were clinical when they dispatched them. So I think this result, I would say, the cobwebs are out the system now after, 1 or 2 or 20 or so jars, the last sort of, probably even more than that actually, a lot of them would have been on the piss, a lot of them would have been drinking, and you don't blame them because, they've just achieved something monumental, and, it only takes to be 2, 3, 4, 5% off it, and the whole team performance can look so much worse, and I think that was the case. I don't think they were miles off it. I think they were, if everyone was off it 3%, and that's 11 players, you're looking, that's a big contribution, isn't it? So disappointing for them. I do fear for their next opponents, which is Aston Villa, because I expect there to be a bit of a backlash here. I think Liverpool come out and they really want to put all their wrongs right in this game. And also there's other incentives as well, like there's Golden Boot, for example. Aubameyang holds at the moment along with Jamie Vardy, I believe, with 19 goals. But they've got Mo Salah, who's I think 2 behind, and you've got Mane, who's another further 2 behind that. So both of them will be eyeing that up. One sort of negative note to mention, statistics-wise, so Liverpool have not scored in their last 5 away games in all competitions, which is a bit of an alarming stat. Obviously, it's not cost them this season for the last 5 games they've played because they've had so many points in the bag in the league, so it was irrelevant there, and they picked up points here and there, lost a couple of games. It did cost them in the Champions League because they couldn't score away from home there, but just something to maybe just to note going forward, that maybe they want to address that in their next away games, or put that right as well. And with Aston Villa, they lost the Midlands derby to Wolves 1-0. They've picked up 2 points from 4 games. It's not enough for Villa. I mean, the only shining light, if you like, is that not many of the teams around them picked up loads and loads of points. I think that out of the bottom 6 teams, only Brighton and West Ham have picked up W's. So there's no one pulling away from them, and there's also, like, from the teams below, which is only Norwich, there's no one climbing towards them either and putting pressure on that way as well. So despite only picking up 2 points, they're still in their hands, if you like. They've got other teams to play all around them. They can pick up good wins potentially, but they need to find that W. Very similar to Watford, they need to pick up something really, really quick. I'd be very surprised if they pick up anything, even a point in this game. Having said that, they have looked stronger defensively. They have looked better. Look harder to break down. They look more organised. They something to build on. If they look stronger defensively, you're more likely to keep a clean sheet. It's just going forward. Jack Grealish hasn't looked like himself. John McGinn, you can't expect him to be bang at it straight away after being away and not playing for 5 months. It's going to take him a bit of time. Then you got the young lad Keane Davis, who instantly has done quite well, but he's a young lad. He's not played many games, not played many minutes at all. And then you've got the new lad, Samatta, who's struggled since he's joined the club anyway. So, yeah, interesting to see how that game goes and unfolds. I suspect Liverpool will be looking to, put in a big performance for their fans and especially their first home game since they've been champions, to put on a bit of a display, a bit of a clinic, if you like. Moving on to the last game, which is Southampton versus Manchester City. Oh, second from last game, sorry. So Southampton in the last game, they picked up a W, beat Watford 3-1. Just touch on Danny Ings, he's absolutely flying at the moment. He's on 17 goals in the Prem. Only Vardy and Aubameyang ahead of him at the moment. He could finish with the golden boot, and I suspect a lot of clubs will be looking at him. Whether they can afford him and prize him away, I don't know. Whether he would actually want to go to a bigger club, I don't know, because he tried his luck at Liverpool and it didn't really work out, albeit down to a lot of injuries. So they picked up 2 wins from 3 games. That's a strong start from them. They've pretty much picked up from where they finished off before COVID kicked into play. Up to 13th in the division. They've hit the elusive 40-point mark, which so many teams and pundits and fans always say, you've hit the 40-point mark, you should be safe in the division. They've done that. So with 6 games to go, they should be safe now. It'll take one hell of a run from 3 or 4 others to pick up loads of wins, and also Southampton just got a massive run of L's. And then Manchester City, touched on them already slightly, beat the champs last night 4-0. KDB put an absolute masterclass of just passing. Well, not just passing, but passing in particular, but even his work rate and his desire and his attitude. Just he's a different league, honestly. He is, for me, the best player in the Prem. It's hard for me to say that because, obviously, being a Man United fan, but put my coach's hat on and a fan's cap on, if you like, an appreciation point of view, he is a different level, honestly. And I think Liverpool, and not just Liverpool was on the receiving end of that. There's many teams who have been on the receiving end of that, and going forward, many teams will be on the receiving end of that. To touch on Raheem Sterling, seems to have found his form. He hadn't scored for a long period before COVID, and he's found his goal scoring touch again. Scored a couple of goals since the restart, so looking strong for Raheem, and he just generally looks sharp and at it as well. And obviously they won their FA Cup going away to Newcastle, winning 2-0 there. So they're in the semi-finals, playing Arsenal, like we touched on. We are waiting for the Champions League appeal for Manchester City. So that should be happening, I believe, either this Friday coming, so a week today, or the Monday after that. So it'll be either 7 days' time or 10 days' time. We should get a verdict. If Champions League football is guaranteed to them, they've all but confirmed their position in the Champions League. They probably only need 1 more win to confirm their position mathematically. Like I said, though, you never know what the appeal could do. Could be 2 years, could be 1 year, could be reduced altogether. So watch your space for this one. And then that leads me to the last game, Spurs versus Everton. Spurs, I don't know where to start with them. They looked like they wouldn't win from the get-go yesterday. Like, they lacked ideas. I saw the team sheet and thought, do you know what? Lots of goals there, and they're going to score loads here. Sheffield United not in the best form. They're going to be in for a bit of a hiding here, despite them being at home. But no, it didn't look that way at all. Harry Kane looks off it, and granted he's been out for a while. Son doesn't look quite himself. I just think they lack creation and a killer instinct and a lot of belief and momentum as well. I think maybe the pressure's getting to them a little bit. Maybe, I don't want to say it's Mourinho's fault because he's only been in the club 2 minutes, but a lot of it maybe stems back from last season as well, because they've not hit the dizzy heights of what they were doing, the 3 or 4 seasons prior to that, when they were finishing consistently in the top 4, certainly top 3, top 2 on one occasion. By losing this game, it only gives them a very, very slim chance of the Champions League, in my opinion. Mathematically they can absolutely still make it, and I think they probably can still make third mathematically, but they're relying on 4 other teams, maybe 5 other teams to drop a lot of points. So I think the Europa League positions are probably what Spurs will be looking for, and trying to be fending off the teams like the Burnleys and the Crystal Palaces and even the Sheffields of this world, to try and sort of make sure they finish in Europa League position. The last thing they want is to fizzle out their season and not finish in Europe at all. Or maybe they do want that. let us know in the comments actually. Would that be a better thing for Spurs if they didn't finish in Europe and then they can concentrate on just finishing and participating in the Premier League next season and really just going for it? You know, let us know in the comments, guys. I'd be really interested actually. And then the last team to just talk about is Everton. They beat Leicester in their last game 2-1. Richarlison scored a goal and Sigurdsson scored a penalty. Touched on it earlier, Leicester looked miles off it. Nevertheless, Everton still had to dispatch them, and they have done. They've picked up 7 points from their 3 games, so they're on a bit of a little mini unbeaten run. And they're another team who could, you know, push into the Europa League spots if they go on and continue this sort of unbeaten run and a good sort of winning streak, if you like. I was really pleased with Ancelotti's tactics actually in this game. You know, just hard to beat, playing narrow with Gordon, the young lad, playing really, really narrow, allowing Luca Dean to overlap, creating the width that way. But because of Gordon playing so narrow, it creates sort of a bit of an overload in that central area. Certainly against Ndidi in that area anyway. And it worked really, really well for them. And obviously you've got Richarlison, you've got Calvert-Lewin, who can cause havoc, certainly in the air, but also in terms of pace and threatening the space in behind and looking to turn the defenders. So yeah, I just want to touch on that. I think Ancelotti did really, really, really well. But also, when Leicester sort of picked their form up and had a bit of a what's the word I'm looking for? Had a bit of a foothold in the game in the second half, and they looked like they could score because Maddison came in at half time, and it looked like they were building up a bit ahead of steam. And you think, oh, they're going to score here, get an equaliser, or get back into the game. He made some substitutions, so he took off. Well, Richarlison was forced off through injury, but I think Tom Davies was going to come on anyway, so he thickened up the midfield, tried that. Didn't necessarily work immediately, but it did slow the momentum a little bit with Tom Davies sort of doing a bit of a man marking job on Maddison. But because Leicester still had the momentum, and it didn't look like everything could get out because they lost a striker and they thickened up the midfield. They tried another tactic to try and sort of again slow the momentum. They brought on Yereminas, played 5 at the back, and that did actually help a lot. You know, they dealt with everything in the box from wide areas and from deep crosses, and they also just sort of trying to play between the lines as well. They dealt with that really, really well. So yeah, special praise for Ancelotti. I think he showed his class in terms of identifying what the game needed and what his team needed to kill the momentum of the opposition, but also just maybe to see out a game as well. So yeah, special mention to him. Okay guys, that ends episode 4 of the Premier League Appetiser show on the Asian One-to-One Football Coaching channel. Leave a like, leave a comment. If you haven't subscribed to the channel already, what are you doing? Subscribe to the channel. Loads of good content on here, guys. And we'll see everyone next time.